Yes, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this evening's live stream from match reaction and player ratings to Crystal Palace 0, Chelsea 1. But before we get into that and before I introduce today's guest, guys, make sure you smash like on this video and please click that subscribe button. So if you're tuning in and you're not subscribed, please click that button. It really helps the channel out, helps yourself out, and we're looking to grow. So please do subscribe. And also check out our latest giveaway as well. If you want to get involved in that, head over to the page and watch the latest video to see how you could win yourself a 2006-07 Chelsea home shirt. But back to today's game. I'm delighted to be joined by Theo from the Shed End podcast. Again, Theo, thanks for your time as always, mate. This was awful today from Chelsea. I know we got the win, but I mean, I'm sitting there watching it. I don't know about you, but I wasn't sure what was going on today. It was another awful performance. We'll get into it. Obviously, gone with a back four today. 4 centre-backs in the back four, which I thought was quite interesting as well. Very interesting to have Christian Pulisic playing as a number 8. And then some of the changes I thought were a little bit strange as well. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, mate? Because I know we've won, but it doesn't feel like we've lost. But I mean, I feel a lot more negative than perhaps I should do after Chelsea have won.
I mean, it was a very uninspiring win. Let's put it like that. Even when we beat Palmeiras and Al Hilal, those wins weren't very inspiring at all. No. And I was quite nervous going into today's game because I felt, yes, we've won our last 2 games. Yes, we beat Spurs and Plymouth, but they weren't necessarily inspiring performances. And today's 1-0 win confirms that. And if we play again like that against the likes of Man City or some Champions League opponents that we could potentially be getting later, or even against Lille, it's going to be a really cagey affair once again. And it doesn't really seem to have that kind of connection between the players that are playing up front. Ziyech is probably the one player I really want to praise because he's been our player of 2022 so far. And even before his goal and before his offside goal, he was our best player. He was creating chances, putting in some beautiful crosses, taking on players, which is something he wasn't doing maybe in Lampard's season or before the new year. So he was really promising, but yeah, not an inspiring win. I was literally ready to come on today and talk about another 0-0 or another match where we've dropped points. But we have to look at the positive. It is a win. It feels like, that Brentford win, that Watford win, it wasn't necessarily nice. It was ugly, but we got the 3 points.
I mean, before we get a little bit more into the game, just as an overall, why do you think we're struggling so much performance-wise? Because I'm looking at it, and I tweeted after the game, I honestly don't think unless it's against Tottenham, where the performance level seems to just appear, and admittedly they're not great, that we haven't played. I don't think I've watched the Chelsea match and thought, wow, we were good today since Juventus in November. Everything has just been kind of scraping by with last minute goals or being very fortuitous through whatever circumstances. And you can't use the tiredness excuse. We've had a week to prepare for this game. We had a week to prepare for the Al Hilal game. We've not played good football for 2-3 months nearly now. And it doesn't look like it's a problem that seems to be near a resolution anytime soon. I mean, what do you think? What do you think the problem is? Why do you feel that we've been so underwhelming for so long now?
I mean, the easy excuse or kind of thing I can point out is the Ben Chilwell and Reece James injuries. When we played over back 3, you look at most of our goal, where we get goals from, it would be from those wing backs in Ben Chilwell and Reece James. Ever since then, we haven't really found a fixed, 2 fixed fullbacks since their injuries, and they've kind of been injured since then. I mean, Chilwell in particular got injured in that Juventus game. Reece James got injured, was at home to Brighton, I think last game of the year. And since then, we've kind of been playing around. Sometimes it's been Alonso, sometimes it's been Azpilicueta. We played Sao Niguez at times there, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Malang Sarr as a left back. And I think since we kind of nailed down who are our kind of main fullbacks, or until we get those 2 players back from their injuries, I think we will struggle in that department. But that's kind of an easy excuse. We can't rely on 2 players. We need to be focusing on goals, and we're not getting goals at the moment. So then I want to point the finger at those players that are playing up front, and they just lack so much consistency at the moment. Lukaku, Havertz, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi. Ziyech is the one who's been fantastic recently, but all those others I just feel need to get their act together and switch on, because Lukaku was good at the Club World Cup, but today again it was just back to his usual self, the usual Lukaku we saw since that interview. Lackluster, really not really getting involved. I'd love to see how many times he actually touched the ball in the penalty box, because I think it was pretty close to 0. I can't remember him touching the ball. But no, there are a few things to sort out. I'm sure Tuchel is going to be quite worried going into the business part of the season now.
Yeah, I mean, particularly as you say, we've got Lille coming up on Tuesday, and then we've obviously got the Carabao Cup Final on Sunday against the Liverpool side, who are playing some fantastic football. And you've got to, obviously, I'm not going to talk about it too much now. You've got to worry for us that if we don't find something and improve our performance levels, that final against Liverpool could be a bad day out for us. But I mean, back to the game itself. Before we get back to the attackers, I just wanted to I was a little bit confused by Thomas Tuchel today, I've got to be honest. Obviously, circumstances slightly dictated the lineup. Obviously, no Azpilicueta, no Callum Hudson-Odoi. So that kind of rules us out really going with a back 3, I suppose. But I mean, having seen the makeup of that back 4 with 4 centre-backs, are you surprised that we didn't just go in the back 3 and use Pulisic as a right wing back and have Marcos Alonso on the left? Were you a little bit surprised to see 4 centre-backs comprising that back line?
Slightly. I was a little surprised. I do feel recent performances that we've been really good in the attacking department has been those performances where we played with a back 4, which was Spurs at home, for instance. And you really see Ziyech flourish in that system. However, like you mentioned, if you've got a fit fullback, a wing back in Marcos Alonso, you play him, I feel. Maybe he's got the Lille game, which is on Tuesday, in the back of his mind, but this is still a really important game in the race for top 4. And then the other side to me is maybe you don't really have a fit right wing back, because Pulisic, he can play there, but is he good in that position? Probably not, in my opinion. And, given his record against Crystal Palace, which I think is 5 goals in 5 appearances, or 5 goals in 4 starts, Pulisic was probably rallying to start higher up the pitch. And even given his recent comments recently around, being in and out of the team and ways being played, I think Tuchel really wanted to play him, his more natural position, which wasn't really where we saw him today even. So, it was slightly confusing, but Christensen and Malang Sarr, they were playing left back and right back. Those aren't really their natural positions. I can't remember Christensen ever playing right back for Chelsea since his debut against Shrewsbury, which I think was in 2014. But yeah, slightly confusing tactics from Tuchel.
I mean, and it wasn't just the selections at fullback, or say the 4 at the back, all centre backs, that was confusing. Moving further up the pitch, given how good Christian Pulisic's record is against Crystal Palace, particularly at Selhurst Park, I was very surprised to see in this lineup that he wasn't deployed in the front 3, but instead he was playing in a number 8 position, which I found very odd. And I also found it odd that N'Golo Kante was occupying another number 8 position. And I'm not sure why Theo Kovacic did not start and why it took about 75 minutes for him to even come on. But just a quick word on Kante before we talk about Christian Pulisic starting as an 8. For me, Kante's been an outstanding player, and obviously, if we win the League Cup final next weekend, then he could become the second player, along with Marcos Alonso potentially, to have won it all with Chelsea. So I'm not underestimating what he's done at the club. He's been a fantastic footballer. I just look at it now, and for me, Kante's just a big game player. Like, you play him in the big game. So cup final next week. Like, any big games you've got, you play him. This game didn't require N'Golo Kante to play in midfield today, in my opinion. I'm not quite sure why Thomas Tuchel played him as a number 8, because for me, Kante is a kind of a defensive-minded midfield player that can kind of break forward a little bit. And it was a perfect example of it in the first half when we had that great chance. And it falls to probably the one person on the pitch you don't want it to fall to. And that was Kante. I mean, what are your thoughts on Kante? And like, do you agree with what I'm saying in terms of kind of he's just a big game player now, and these sort of games don't require him? Where do you stand on him? Because I thought it was odd to play him as an 8.
I do agree, slowly kind of seeing that inconsistency in his performances. He was quite poor in that first half of when he came on, in the second half against Al Hilal. I did think today was not his best performance. Like you mentioned, I would have loved to see Theo Kovacic come on earlier. As soon as he came on with energy, with pace, especially, and then probably what you're going to mention about Pulisic in a bit, playing Pulisic in a number 8 would require him to do quite a bit of defensive work, and you need to get his passing together, and he did none of those today. His passing was sloppy. He wasn't tracking back. I felt like it was quite a poor Pulisic performance, but I'm slowly thinking with Kante, we were mentioning this I think it was with you actually, we were talking about this kind of, this is kind of our last chance to get a big price for him if we were to sell him. But then again, I don't see us ever replacing Kante with any player of his ability. Maybe there's one in Tchouaméni, But if you want to listen to that discussion, I'm sure you can go back to the previous episode. But no, I do kind of feel like he will start at Wembley and he'll put in a great performance. But then what kind of does scare me is I think since Tuchel's come in, our best win rate has been with Jorginho and Kovacic in midfield. So I'm not too sure what to think.
Yeah, and just before I come on to Christian Pulisic, just another stat that I've just remembered, that obviously we still haven't won back-to-back Premier League games since the end of October. I know we haven't lost a lot of Premier League games, but there's been a lot of draws littered in there. We haven't actually strung together 2 wins in a row in the league since the end of October. That again is highlighting that huge inconsistencies in the side, which again is another slight worry for me as well. And it's probably why we, at the moment, aren't capable of challenging for the league, because we don't have that level of consistency. We don't have that level of good performances. Like, if you're going to challenge this Manchester City side, this Liverpool side, you can't scrape by every week and not win 2 games in a row for a few months. That is not good enough.
That's worrying. It's really worrying.
It is worrying. I mean, I feel like weird sitting here. We're talking quite negatively in a game that we've won, but this is not just this game in isolation. It's the bigger picture. And this season has been successful so far in terms of the Super Cup and in terms of the Club World Cup. I mean, it could have the Carabao Cup in the cabinet next weekend, but there are alarming issues that, for me, just aren't looking like they're anywhere near being resolved. But I mean, we'll come on to them a little bit later. But in terms of Christian Pulisic at number 8, I thought that was really strange, and I have to say, I thought he was dreadful today. He wasn't the only one, but he was awful today. Really, really bad. I mean, why do you think he played as an 8?
I've got no clue. Maybe because we wanted to fit him into the team, playing a back four gave us room for one more player. But I just felt so many times watching that game, Havertz drifted onto the wing and Pulisic was playing in that number 8 central position, which is not normal. It should have been the other way around, I felt. Pulisic should be playing in that front 3 alongside Lukaku and Havertz. But then where does that bring Ziyech? So it's kind of a tricky one. I don't know. I thought it was a poor Pulisic performance. I was hoping when we saw the substitutes warm up that he'd be one of the players coming off. But it didn't happen. He played the full 90 minutes and didn't really offer much. So I'm not sure if he's really redeemed himself or put himself in any position to start the League Cup final or even play a part in the game against Lille on Tuesday, especially if Hudson-Odoi is fit.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. It's the same with so many players. That levels of inconsistency is just remarkable. How these players could, and these are expensive football players. I mean, Christian Pulisic, 60-odd million quid. Havertz, 75 million. I know he scored a winning goal in a Club World Cup and a winning goal in the Champions League final, but you look at his consistent performances since he signed in a Premier League. He's been awful. I'm sorry. He's been dreadful. He really has. And we can't keep making excuses for players. Pulisic was awful today. Havertz has been awful in general for Chelsea since he signed, bar a handful of games. There's so many players that aren't good enough at the moment, and potentially some of these actually aren't good enough to play for the football club. I think it is that it's that bad in certain attacking areas. I mean, I look at it right now. I'm a Lukaku fan, but at the moment it's not really working out. But I'd hold on to him. But in terms of like the attackers, bar Lukaku, Mason Mount, and Hakim Ziyech, I know they won't sell Kai Havertz, but I wouldn't be bothered if any of the rest left in the summer. I really wouldn't, because none of them are performing to the level that is required of them. I mean, I'm just going to bring up, you were on about Lukaku's touches earlier. I'm just going to bring it up on the screen now because I've managed to track down the amount of touches he had. So Opta, Lukaku had just 7 touches against Crystal Palace, the fewest in a single Premier League game for a player with 90 plus minutes played since this data is available in full for the competition. So from 2003-04 season, one of those touches was from kickoff in the first half. So basically, he had 2, apart from the kickoff, he had 1 touch in the first half and then 5 touches in the second half. Now, that obviously is not good, but there's a bigger story to that than looking at that and thinking, well, what's he doing? He needs to do more. He needs to show for the ball more. He needs to get involved more. He needs to make more things happen himself. But on the flip side of that, players need to try and pick him out. Like he's had that many touches for a reason. And one of the reasons is because he's perhaps not making enough runs, not showing for the ball enough. But another big reason has surely got to be that players aren't trying to pick him out. I mean, what do you think? 'Cause obviously, it was poor from him today. But I mean, what do you think about that lack of touches, because for a centre forward to have 7 touches with 1 being from kickoff, it's not good at all, is it?
No. I mean, seeing that stat, I'm laughing, but if I don't laugh, I'll cry in a way, so I've got to laugh. But no, it's a really worrying stat, but I think you said it. I can only echo what you just said. A part of the responsibility is on Lukaku. He needs to be fighting for those balls, he needs to be fighting for those headers and creating that service for himself. But then that second part to it is players need to be helping him out. Not once did I see a player put a beautiful through ball to him. Occasionally, Ziyech had a great cross, which Lukaku did struggle to get a head on. But no, they need to be picking him out and helping him out.
There was one, wasn't there? One occasion in the second half where he was played in, but obviously he was offside. But apart from that, mate, there was like, sorry to cut you off, but there was like there was nothing. I didn't really see any balls that were even kind of looking to pick him out. I mean, why are we not putting balls in the box? We've seen in the World Cup twice. Twice. From putting balls in the box, he scored. And it just seems to me that we seem reluctant in the Premier League to put balls in the box. And I just don't get it.
Yeah, in the Club World Cup, I felt like Lukaku was getting that service in those games.
Yeah, he did.
He scored 2 goals, and I think once Aspie put a great ball into the box, they just fizzed past him. But no, in the Premier League, it's just been poor. And that game against Aston Villa was that one game I actually saw Lukaku, trying to create something for himself. He did a beautiful run, I think, to win the penalty for Jorginho in the last minute of the game. But other than that, I do want to kind of see a bit more of the players helping him out, and maybe slowly having that player that can play that Lautaro Martinez role, whether it's Havertz, whether it's Werner, which probably won't be, or someone we bring in the summer, or could be Armando Broja, but they play in a front 2 together and they really help each other out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we do need some help there up at that top end of the pitch, but I mean, it's not just Lukaku. He obviously gets scapegoated quite easily. I guess he's an easy target because of the interview, easy target because of the money spent. But ultimately, the guys around him as well, apart from the names we've mentioned, they've got to do more. They have to do more. I thought Kai Havertz was poor today. I mean, what did you make of his performance? Just in terms of like the guy's so inconsistent. I mean, he was out on the left wing today. He's not a left winger.
No.
For me, Havertz is a confusing one because he's obviously a talented football player. We have seen it in moments, but I always feel that whatever system we play, it doesn't really, unless we play a number 10, it doesn't seem to be a role like an actual natural fit for his position in the team.
No, I always praise some of Hazard's strengths and characteristics, but those aren't the strengths and characteristics that we signed him for, which is to score goals and contribute to goals. I'll praise him for the way he holds the ball and how he is able to sometimes get past players. And today he had that one occasion where he burst into the penalty box and won as a free kick in a dangerous area. But other than that, he just drifts on the wing. He doesn't really seem to get involved in a lot of things. And then it's kind of not just Havertz, but all of them. They get into good position and then he just end up passing it back rather than actually trying to burst into the penalty box, do something special, create something, get it to Lukaku. But again, it's just the same with all the other players we mentioned, inconsistent. Like Havertz was brilliant, a couple games last season. I think the same fixture last season against Palace, he was fantastic. Fulham at home, he was brilliant, I remember. But he's inconsistent in his performances again. And I do like that Tuchel is persisting with him in the last couple of games. He does offer something. And I do think if we're able to unlock that partnership with him and Lukaku, it could potentially be dangerous. But we've only seen that in glimpses.
Mate, I just want to bring up what Thomas Tuchel has said after the game as to why he felt we were so poor today. And like, before you see this, it's sort of something that you come up with, if you were managing sort of a lower league side or a school side, or like if you were in your FIFA career mode or a football manager in a press conference. It's not gone well. But mate, this is ridiculous. I've got to be honest. He explains that jet lag, colds, and lack of sleep after Abu Dhabi were reasons for Chelsea's subpar display today. He said he didn't expect much from his team today. I mean, what would you make of that? I find that quite astonishing that, we've had a week to prepare for this game. The time difference is not that bad, like to Abu Dhabi. I think it's 4 hours ahead. It's not like, you're 8 hours behind, you're going halfway around the world. You're traveling in private jets. I know it takes it out of you traveling, don't get me wrong, but I mean, we've had lack of sleep for a week, have we? Like...
I tweeted on a team still jet lag as a joke. And now I'm actually seeing Tuchel say this. I'm thinking, maybe it wasn't so much of a joke. But no, I was in Dubai before Christmas, flew back the next day. I had to get to work. It's not an excuse. I feel lack of sleep, jet lag, or colds. But I feel like you mentioned, it's almost like he's coming up with Mourinho excuses. I don't want to put it like that, but
I mean, the lack of sleep baffles me, because it's not like we'd literally come back that like 2 days ago or whatever, and then we had a game, and we had a game in the next couple of days. We've been back. They flew back the same night as they flew back Sunday night. We've had a week to prepare for this game. That for me, I'm a little bit confused by that. But I mean, are you surprised that he's come out and said that he wasn't expecting much on this game at all? Because I feel that's a bit odd, because no matter the situation, like the quality of players we've got, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, we shouldn't be turning up there and struggling that much.
No, I feel hearing him say that he didn't expect much from this game is not really reassuring. It's not really what you want to be hearing from your manager. I do know that I think Thiago Silva and Eduard Mendy stayed a bit longer in the UAE with their families, I think. But either way, like you said, jet lag, traveling, you need max maybe 2 days to fully recover. And they've had more than enough training sessions at Cobham, to get to prepare for this game. And, we've got Lille in 2-3 days. I don't want to be hearing these jet lag and lack of sleep excuses for that game, because...
I mean, that was interesting. But I mean, back to the game itself, first half, I thought, Crystal Palace probably should have scored at least a couple of times. A great chance for Wilfried Zaha, a couple of chances for Elise, I think, as well. We were lucky not to concede in that first half. We had a couple of opportunities ourselves. Mate, one of these days, Rudiger's 30-yarder is going to go in, isn't it?
I think that was the best one we saw out of the lot. Brilliant save from Guaita. Probably that's how he got his injury, probably with his hand from saving it. I think he hit the crossbar once at St. James's Park. But one day it will go in. It will go in for sure, especially if he signs that new deal.
I mean, that was pretty much our best chance, other than what we touched on earlier. Do you think N'Golo Kante should do better when he finds himself kind of one-on-one in the box? Or is it a little bit much to ask for someone who is not really an attacking player? But then having said that, if you're a professional footballer and you've got pretty much a free shot in the box, should you be doing a bit better with that?
I want to say yes. I mean, no matter where you play on the pitch and on training ground, you do train and you practice your shooting. And you see these training videos of Chelsea on YouTube, and they do practice their shooting. You see Kante having training against Kepa, Bettinelli, and Eduard Mendy. So I would expect him to score it. But like you said, the last player you'd want to, having that chance is Kante. I'd much rather even Malang Sarr, who actually put in a brilliant pass for Kante when he found himself in that space.
Mate, would you agree that we were lucky to get in at 0-0 at the break, given the quality of chances that Palace had? Because Zaha was very wasteful as well. There's a couple of times he definitely should have scored in that first half.
Yeah, I feel like Palace had probably the better chances in that first half. Zaha's chance just to whisk away from the post any other day, that's probably going in. But I want to say they had good chances, but they didn't really test Mendy at any point. None of their chances were really on target, so nothing too threatening.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, second half, I was expecting a little bit better. It got a little bit better, but it wasn't much. It was a bit of a slow burner. I thought arguably we started the second half actually worse than we started the first half. But again, we didn't create a lot. I mean, are you surprised that Tuchel waited so long to make the changes when it was blatantly obvious that we needed to switch something up? I mean, we waited, 75 minutes for a change? And we did a triple substitution all at once. And another thing I didn't get was this. I was talking on my match preview that this system with 2 8s is perfect for Ruben Loftus-Cheek to play as an 8. We saw him play as an 8 under Sarri, and he was really effective. Why, when he brings on Ruben, is he putting him as the holding midfield player in place of Jorginho? I didn't get that at all. I mean, do you sometimes find yourselves a little bit confused about Tuchel's tactics, about why he leaves subs so late? Because it seems to be a thing that when a game needs changing, I don't want to sound like I'm criticising him because he's fantastic. He's done so well for us. But one criticism would be that in certain games, he waits far too long to make a sub. It's like it's reactive rather than being proactive.
I mean, you want to think your manager knows what he's doing, but as a fan, that game was just calling for substitutions, probably straight after that first half, if anything.
Yeah.
And like you said, seeing Loftus-Cheek playing as a holding midfielder rather than an 8 will probably get him sold in the summer, because that's not where he is meant to be playing. And he was fantastic in that Sarri season, higher up the pitch, almost at even number 10 role at times. So I do want to see Loftus-Cheek play higher there. And I do want to see subs happen earlier, but I love Tuchel. I think he's a fantastic manager, and I always back kind of his tactical mind. So if he wants to make those substitutions at that particular time, and it was a triple substitution, probably did have a slight impact on the games. We did score, I think, 15 or 20 minutes after they came on. So
yeah,
it did pay off.
I mean, like Palace, they still had chances in that second half, and we did ride our luck on a couple of occasions. I mean, I thought we'd got that goal through Ziyech, but obviously Lukaku was offside in the build-up. I mean, when that happened and that was chalked off, mate, were you thinking, this just is not going to be our day today? It's got 0-0 written all over it.
Yeah, I literally felt like when that goal got ruled out for VAR, I thought either it's going to be 0-0, probably someone like Mark Wehi will snatch a 90th minute header at the end. But there's a funny picture of the two Ziyech celebrations, and they're almost identical for the offside goal and the actual goal that came in the 87th, whichever minute.
Doesn't seem like one to celebrate too much and show too much enthusiasm, but we've got to be very grateful for his contributions in recent weeks, because if he hadn't stepped up, I don't know where we'd be. But ultimately, mate, the goal does come. We do get it. The 90th minute, thankfully, something turned up. And actually, for someone that does get scapegoated as well, Marcus Alonso, he came on, looked better. I mean, for as good as Malang Sarr is defensively, I'd probably say Malang Sarr is probably a better defender than Marcus Alonso. But in terms of getting forward and putting balls in the box, not that great. We saw him have he got forward a few occasions in that first half, had a shot that went wide. He looks a little bit uncomfortable in attacking areas. But defensively, he's better than Marcus. But as soon as Alonso came on, he put his attacking prowess on display, and he puts a great ball into the box. And it's a fantastic finish from Hakim Ziyech, who at the moment is Chelsea's standout performer. I mean, what did you make of the goal itself? I thought it was a nice goal.
It was a nice goal. It was what I was hoping to see earlier in the game. A good cross, a good delivery, and someone in the box to finish it. But it came in the 87th minute. It was a brilliant ball from Marcus Alonso, like you said. I don't think something that Malang Sarr or Christensen could have offered from those fullback positions. And Hakim Ziyech was there to finish it. Great finish as well. I think 3 goals in his last 3 Premier League appearances now. So by far our player of 2022, so, as things stand.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. And, on Hakim Ziyech, before I get to that, mate, we almost threw it away at the end as well. Again, Wilfried Zaha with another opportunity. I mean, how surprised are you that he missed that?
I was still tweeting about the Chelsea goal, and I lift my head and see that Zaha chance. I was just hoping he would just put it wide, or we put it in that block. But any other day, that could have gone in. It almost reminded me of the Europa League final when Ivanovic scored, and then seconds later, Benfica had a chance, but had to put in the block. So it would have been typical of us to just switch off after scoring.
I mean, I think we're lucky today, mate, that we are playing someone in Palace who were today equally as poor and not clinical in attack as us. If we'd given those chances up against a better team, mate, we'd have lost that game probably 2 or 3-0 today. We really would have done.
They lacked a lot of attacking players. They didn't have Benteke, they didn't have Mateta, they didn't have Eze, they didn't have...
No Conor Gallagher either today.
No Conor Gallagher, and I think there's one more... Eduard as well didn't play.
Yeah, so Eduard didn't play. 5
of those players any other day, I think they're playing that game and they're probably tucking away those chances.
Yeah, I mean, and just before we get into the ratings, I just wanted to speak about Hakim Ziyech. I'm just going to bring his stats up today. And obviously on a day where, Chelsea's attack were awful, he put in a good display today. Here's his numbers: 34 touches, 9 crosses, 7 duels won, 7 ball recoveries, 5 touches in the opposition box, 4 take-ons, 3 tackles, 3 shots, 1 shot on target, 1 goal. Obviously, when he first came in, we knew undoubted ability, saw how good he was for Ajax, particularly in that run to the Champions League semi-finals. Signed for Chelsea, mate, I was really excited. And for whatever reason, it didn't really seem to happen under Frank Lampard. And then in the back 3 system, it doesn't quite play to his strengths. He had moments, but he was one of the most frustrating players to watch in those early Tuchel days. Undoubted ability, but just not showing it on a consistent basis. But as soon as we switched to a back 4 and he's playing on that right-hand side like he used to do at Ajax, the performance levels have gone up and he's really stepped up. And as I said earlier, I don't know where we'd be without him. I mean, how impressed have you been with his kind of resurgence in form and his kind of, he's kind of almost arrived at Chelsea now. He's probably in the best moment of his career at Chelsea, and he's obviously our most important player, really, attacking-wise at the moment. I mean, how impressed have you been with his form since we switched to a 4 at the back? And what do you think of him as a player? Because he would have been one that Chelsea fans would have been happy to see the back of in the summer.
No, really pleased to see him play play well at the moment. When he came from Ajax, he came with such high expectations. I was at the bridge for that 4-4 game where we drew with Ajax, and he was a standout star. He was fantastic. And playing to the back four really shows Ziyech's strengths. He was unlucky in his first season at Chelsea. He got injured in that preseason game against Brighton. Then was in and out of the team, competing against Havertz, Mount, Werner, Giroud, Abraham, all those players. But I really hope that this purple patch that he's going through can carry on, because he's really carrying us at the moment. I mean, we should be relying on one player. I'm seeing all those numbers. I mean, those are the type of numbers you'd expect from also a Havertz, a Lukaku, and other types of players. So it almost seems like if he was to get injured or something would happen. I know we didn't have Mount today, but we'd struggle. We would struggle. And it's another thing. Last summer he was on the verge of signing for AC Milan at one point on loan or even permanently. The fact now that he's kind of forced his way back into the team shows that his mentality is quite impressive as well. Because he looked very fragile last season. He looked like quite weak, but not physically and mentally in a way. Yeah. But he seems to have put that aside now and just focusing on his football.
And he's adding goals to his game as well, which is really crucial, because at the moment goals are in quite short supply for us. We're not scoring a lot of goals, particularly from open play as well. Not getting many, really. I mean, I can't remember the last time we actually scored more than a couple, really, from open play in 90 minutes. So it's good that he's stepping up and contributing, but it's just wish the rest of the attack would kind of get a move on and sort of and join him, really, because you can't be reliant on one player when you're at a top club. Right, mate, let's get into these player ratings then. I'll just bring the screen up now. Starting with Eduard Mendy in goal.
Nothing to do.
It's quite difficult to rate him because, to be honest, today he didn't have a lot of saves to make. I can't really remember a save he made.
No, I'm not sure they even had I'd like to see a statistic, but did they have a shot on target? Unless it was a very tame one, I can't really remember.
I'm not sure. I do agree, Matt. I don't know if Mendy really had a lot to do today, but then, I mean, it's quite hard to give him a rating though, because obviously you don't want to give him like a 5 because he didn't really have a lot to do. I mean, maybe a 6 is fair for him because
that seems fair.
He was a clean sheet, but he didn't really have anything to do.
No, one thing that I've always picked up with Mendy that Kepa, I feel, is better than him is Kepa's distribution, and he's better with his feet. But today, Mendy actually made some decent passes with his feet. So I think just for that reason, maybe he merits a 6 over a 5.
Yeah, no, I think a 6 is fair. Let's move on to the right back then. Andreas Christensen, obviously not his natural position. What did you make of him today, mate? I thought he was okay, nothing spectacular. He was caught out a couple of times, I felt, but I mean, how would you see him? I mean, I thought he was, I don't want to be harsh, but I think maybe average or just above today from him. How did you think he copes at right back?
Yeah, I felt like I could just echo everything you said. He was quite solid. He coped well. Occasionally, he was quite sloppy and gave the ball away once or twice. But overall, it was quite a solid or average performance. So I think maybe a 5.5 or 6 even.
Yeah, I think I'd go with a 5.5, to be honest. I reckon that's about right. If we move on to Malang Sarr on the other side, he's not a left back, but he has impressed there in recent weeks. Obviously mentioned before that he looks a little bit uneasy when he finds himself in the attacking part of the pitch. I thought he defended quite well today. Would you say that he had a better or worse game than Christensen? How would you see him matching up today?
I mean, like you said, when he kind of gets higher up the pitch, he looks a bit lost. And we saw what Alonso is capable of doing when he came on in that position. But then I just almost want to give him a higher rating than Christensen for that through ball he put in for Kante. That was almost like a Fabregas through pass. So maybe a 6.
A 6 for Malang Sarr. I think that's quite fair. Moving on to the centre backs then. I've got to be honest, mate. Watching Thiago Silva today, I mean, I barely noticed he was playing. I didn't really know he was on the pitch. Not that he was bad or anything, but he didn't really have anything to do. But I mean, can we give him? I mean, I don't know. Well, I thought he wasn't worse than average, but he didn't really do anything spectacular. He didn't really do anything wrong. So it's quite difficult. I can't remember anything standout that Silva did. Yeah, I mean, a few times he cleared some dangerous corners or crosses, with his head, but that's what just Thiago Silva does now, and we've become so used to it. So quite another solid, but
nothing spectacular Thiago Silva performance. So maybe a 6 again.
Yeah, I think a 6 is fair. Moving on to Antonio Rudiger. I thought he was good today. Obviously, had that great shot in the first half, which almost went in. But again, similar to Silva, not a lot to do defensively today either. But what he did have to do, he did well. Didn't really seem to get caught out too often. I'll probably go with a 6.5. But I mean, how did you see Rudiger today? Because it's quite hard to judge the back line because they didn't really have a lot to do.
It's hard to give ratings to these defenders or centre-backs when we've kept a clean sheet, but they weren't really that busy in terms of having to deal with opportunities or chances from Crystal Palace. So I think for his chance from long range, and also at one point he battled quite well with Andre Ayew, which was trying to get him sent off, which is what Rudiger does best. But I'm seeing you there put a 6.5. I'm more than happy with that.
Moving on to holding midfield then, Jorginho. Obviously, he was subbed off for Loftus-Cheek towards the end. He wasn't the only one today. I thought Jorginho was poor today. I thought he really struggled to kind of influence the game in midfield. Didn't seem to have his usual control there. And yeah, at times the game kind of overran him. How did you see how he did? I mean, I personally feel that Jorginho today probably average at best.
Very average. He's the type of player that usually always sets the tempo for the game. He doesn't necessarily have to run or move a lot, but he seems to have everything under control. Whereas today he seemed a bit not out of place, but he struggled to really keep up with the game. And we often cliche with the battles won in midfield, whereas today I felt he didn't really win that battle at times. So I think a 5 is probably a fair rating for him.
Yeah, I think average really for Jorginho. Let's move on to N'Golo Kante. We spoke about him a little bit earlier in the show. If Jorginho was a 5, do you think Kante was better or worse? I've got to be honest, mate. I actually think Kante could have been worse, if I'm being perfectly honest. I thought he was not good today. Yeah,
just another below average Kante performance.
I mean, apart from his effort on goal in the first half, he didn't offer a lot to the team at all. And in that number 8 position, you've got to link up with the winger as well. Like you see when Mount plays in that 8, or when Kovacic plays in the 8, they're linking up with whether it's a Ziyech or whether it's a Havertz or whoever it is. They're linking up well. Kante, it's not his game to link up with the attackers. And I thought he really struggled to influence himself on the game today. I mean, I don't know if he was worse than Jorginho or not, but I'm looking at a 4.5 or a 5. I mean, how did you see him today?
Yeah, it's one part of Kante's game that frustrates me is he does find himself in those dangerous areas on the edge of the box. And rather than penetrate into the box or try to find, that Havertz, that Lukaku, that Ziyech, he just ends up passing it back. He almost seems like he doesn't really know what to do. His decision-making just lets him down. And today, playing in that number 8 role, we saw a lot of that, where you'd want him to make that decision and be more clinical. But he struggled. So I think, like you said, a 4.5, which I hate to say for Kante, almost feels weird, but it's probably what he deserves today.
Yeah, no, I would fully agree on that. I mean, just on that, I've got to be honest, mate. There's when I look at the performances, etc., there's very few players in this Chelsea side that actually take risks.
Yeah.
So many of them seem to be risk averse. No one seems to be, apart from Hakim Ziyech and a couple of others. I mean, Mason Mount sometimes, occasionally. No one seems to take a risk. No one's prepared to try a ball over the top like Fabregas would or whatever. No one's prepared to do that. Everyone seems to play backwards or play sideways. Why do you feel there's so many risk-averse players in this side?
It's spot on, by the way. I feel we played such conservative football and very safe football. Maybe it's the system Tuchel wants to play. He doesn't want to be losing the ball easily. We know he has this mentality of as soon as you lose the ball, you've got, I think, 6 or 7 seconds to win it back. But I don't know. We just see this dominant Chelsea performance with 60% possession, but not that many clear-cut chances. So I do want to have a play a bit like what Ziyech was doing today, taking those risks with those crosses, those long balls across the pitch. But maybe it's just the system or the tactics that Tuchel has in place to just maintain possession and build from there.
We didn't score as many goals as Liverpool and Manchester City. I'm not asking us to do that, but we've got to find a way to perhaps, I feel, be a bit more expansive and score a few more goals. We've got the attacking quality on the pitch, but we don't seem to be either playing a system that is able to unlock that potential on a regular basis. But I'm not really sure what's going on. So we've got players in the side that, we should be scoring more than 1 goal a game. I know you can't do it every game, but, we're not scoring that many goals at all. And I'm not really sure why that is. I just feel that we need to go for it a bit more, take a few more risks, because that's why we've dropped so many points, because we don't kill games off, because we're not taking risks. As you say, we're safe. We'll pay, instead of trying a through ball or a difficult ball over the top, just knock it sideways, knock it backwards. We'd rather keep the ball and not do anything with it than take a risk. And I think that's part of the reason why we are really struggling at the moment. But obviously, having given Kante a 4.5, Christian Pulisic is going to be getting less than that. He was dreadful today. And in the one game where you normally think, oh, this is a Christian Pulisic game, he's done well against Palace in the past, that was firmly halted in today's game. Mate, he honestly offered absolutely nothing. I mean, I'd probably give him a 2.5 or a 3. He was awful today. And he's another one whose Chelsea future is going to be in doubt come the summer, because for the amount of money we've paid for him, he's not delivering on a consistent basis. And at Chelsea Football Club, you've got to do that. Otherwise, you're out the door. And I think it could be one of those that could be on his way out, because performances like this are not good enough.
He always had that excuse in the previous seasons that he was regularly getting injured. He was struggling with his fitness, whereas now he hasn't really been injured since the start of the season, in a way. Well, he had that period where he got injured, but since maybe October, November, he's been in the team consistently. But he hasn't really been doing much with his chances. Today was really, really poor, sloppy passing, losing the ball easily, not tracking back. I think I'd have to agree with that 2.5 or 3, which seems weird giving it out to Pulisic in a game against Crystal Palace, where he usually loves that opponent. But
let's go. I'll go 2.5. He was awful. Let's move on to Kai Havertz then. Starting on that left wing, we spoke a little bit about him earlier. He's not a left winger, but then he's not a second striker either, and he's not really a number 8. But I would have much preferred to have seen him play as an 8 rather than Pulisic. I think that could have been a lot better. I'm surprised we didn't see that switch. But in terms of Havertz's game today, like majority of the other attackers and players other than Hakim Ziyech, really struggled to get into the game, really struggled to get involved. And that was another really frustrating performance from him.
Really frustrating. He did offer things today more than what Pulisic offered, but below par performance from Havertz. And it frustrates me seeing him always kind of try to get around, win the ball or play the ball around that corner flag area on that left-hand side, which was not where he should be. He should have been playing in that number 8 with a number 10 position, but our formation doesn't allow us to do that. But I think his performance today maybe merits I'm seeing Kante with 4.5. I do think it was slightly better than Kante, but still very, very average. So
I thought he was very poor. Mate, I honestly think, like, from what he should be offering to the game, Pulisic 2.5. To be honest, I think Havertz could be 3.5 or 4. He really didn't offer anything at all. Let's be slightly kind. Let's give him 4.
Yeah,
we'll give him 4. We'll save the man of the match, Hakim Ziyech, for last. Romelu Lukaku. Now, we spoke about him earlier. 7 touches in total in this game. Really not offering a lot at all. Had a good effort on goal, obviously, but it was offside. He didn't do anything today. You know, he didn't. But I don't really know what to say. You know, it's one of those where I've said it before. He's got to offer more. He's got to offer himself up. We've got to try and make more chances for himself, make more opportunities, win more battles in the air, impose himself a little bit more on the back line, show for the ball a bit more. But on the flip side as well, players have got to try and pick him out more. Players have got to, look for him. And with having that few touches, it's quite clear that players either weren't looking for him, or when they were looking for him, their passes were awful. It's quite hard to give Lukaku anything really more than a 3, because he didn't do anything.
It's a weird one. Lukaku's performance today, I struggle with whether I want to defend him or criticize him. It's a tricky one.
It's a difficult one.
Because I know what he's capable of. We saw if he's in the right place at the right time, like against Al Hilal, he will get you the goal, and if he's given that service. But he's also got that in his locker to create those chances for himself, make those runs, bully past defenders, play with his back to goal, which we didn't see today. So I think 3.5 is probably, or 3, like you mentioned, is fair. Another one of those players that probably could have deserved to be subbed off earlier in the game as well.
I mean, I hate going on Twitter after games, because you just see. I don't like criticising Chelsea fans, but there are certain sections of the fan base that
they're very reactionary.
Reactionary and bordering on just stupid. Honestly, they are, because Lukaku is an easy target because of the money and because of the interview. But let's be honest, who's actually any better that could play that position? If he was playing every week and there was someone on the bench that was consistently doing well and scoring goals, you'd be like, why does this guy keep playing? The fact is, all right, drop Lukaku, don't play him. Who plays instead? Who's going to do any better? The fact of the matter is that out of our attacking players, if you want a chance to fall to someone, you want it to fall to Lukaku. I'm not backing Habertz to score a goal. I'm not backing Werner. I'm not backing Pulisic. I'm not backing Callum. I'm not really backing Mason Mount to score consistent chances. Hakim Ziyech in recent weeks, yes, but he's still quite inconsistent with his finishing. So there's no better option. So when people say, sell him or get rid of him or bench him, what's your alternative? Please provide one, because at the moment, Lukaku playing well is going to benefit Chelsea. So everyone needs to get behind him and support him, because a good Lukaku means a good Chelsea. But I mean, I guess that's another reason why he keeps playing, because there's no other options.
There's no other options. And from a financial perspective, we invested 100 million in him. We can't just drop him or sell him in the summer. We don't have that option. There's a small part of me that does think we played relatively well without him during his injured period. Yeah. And also that game he was dropped against Liverpool, first game of the new year. We looked quite good offensively against a very good team in Liverpool. I know the goal came from Kovacic and a Pulisic chance, but we looked like we wanted to create goals. I think we were the better team in that second half, even if we didn't score. So there is that chance that maybe I'm not saying I want him to be dropped, because there isn't no other player that can play there, and I know that consistently if we were to play Havertz as a false nine, he'd be poor. He would be poor, and same with Werner. So I want to persist with him, but at the same time, I do expect him to do much better.
I mean, Werner doesn't even come into my thinking anymore, mate, when I'm picking Chelsea teams. I just pretend he's not even here anymore. He doesn't offer anything whatsoever. Moving on to Hakim Ziyech, then, the only bright spark today. Really good. We've been through his numbers before. We've spoken about him at length, that he's really stepped up. He's really delivering at the moment. He was a standout performer by a long way. I mean, I'll probably give him a 7 or a 7.5. He was exceptional and the only bright spark in a dreadful performance today.
I would have given him a 7.5 before his goal, because he was playing so well. And then I think his goal probably boosted him up to maybe an 8 even. It was a man-of-the-match performance from me, and he got us the 3 points. Without him, we would have gotten a 3 points. So I think 8 is more than fair. Yeah, no, I'd 100% agree. I mean, mate, looking at those, defenders okay, midfield dreadful, 2/3 of the attack awful as well. As we said, we can't keep getting away with this. Yeah. But perhaps a break from the Premier League, back to Stamford Bridge for Lille in midweek. Hopefully that might bring a change in fortunes, different competition. But I mean, I worry for that game a little bit as well. A game that we should comfortably not really have any issues in. I can see in that being another quite tricky game unless we, in the next couple of days on the training pitch, something clicks and we pull our fingers out our arse. Because at the moment we're not playing good football and haven't done for a number of months. But today we got away with it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to be worried about still. But I mean, Theo, how do you feel heading into a big week for the club? I mean, this has not been a good performance. We've not been playing well for a while. But do you feel that there's kind of optimism to be positive heading into this big week? Or is there part of you that feels a little bit nervous about these 2 games coming up, given what we've been watching for the last couple of months? Well, I'm always nervous watching Chelsea, let's put it that way. But it's kind of a make or break week, I feel, because if we mess up in the Champions League and we get knocked out, I mean, we lose the final against Liverpool, all of a sudden we've just got top 4 to focus on and a good FA Cup run. So what could be a good season, which it is right now, could just be a very nerve-wracking final couple of months. So I'm quite nervous. One thing that reassures me is that Lille's domestic form is quite poor at the moment. Yeah. I watched their highlights against PSU and they lost 5-1 and they were awful. They were awful, yeah. They were awful, but knowing them, probably Hatton Ben Arthur will get a couple goals against us and it'll be typical. So I am nervous, but I'm expecting us to still perform and get the win. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, hopefully the performance won't be as bad as what we saw today, but ultimately Chelsea scraped by again. The world champions badge on the crest today. Looking nice. I'm not quite sure what I thought of the yellow and gold together. It didn't look quite as good as perhaps it could have done, but it was nice to see it on the shirt. We won't see it again in the Premier League, but we will see it on Tuesday night. So hopefully that can bring some more inspiration to the side. But yeah, an abject and poor performance at Crystal Palace today. Hakim Ziyech bailing us out with a last-minute goal to pick up the 3 points. And a very important 3 points in that, given the teams behind us in that race for the top 4, all picking up positive results. So it was really vital we found that goal at the end. We did. But yeah,
we need to improve, and we need to improve fast. Theo, thank you so much for joining me as always, mate. Always a pleasure to talk all things Chelsea. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Theo's YouTube channel. Check out his podcast. I've got it across the banner, and the links are in the description below. So please do head over there and check it all out. Make sure you smash a like on this video, guys. Please subscribe to the channel if you aren't subscribed. If you're watching this, you're not subscribed, please subscribe. On the road to 400 subscribers, trying to get there by the end of the month. So please do help me out. I really appreciate all of your support. And as I said at the start, if you want to win yourself a 2006-07 Chelsea home shirt, head to the channel. Go on the most recently uploaded video. Give it a quick watch. It's a minute long. You've got the instructions in there, and you could be in it to win it. But guys, we'll catch you in a couple of days in the match preview for Lille as we return to Champions League action. Theo, thank you as always, mate. Up the Chelsea. Catch you soon.